Welcome to Make Parenting a Pleasure. Today we're going to be talking about self-care, nurturing, and stress. My name is Haley and I will be the one going through this video with you. Just a little heads up, if you see me looking to my left or my right, it's because I do have notes that I'm looking at, one of which is a packet of information that you would have gotten if you took the class in person or in home. If you're interested in seeing the packet, it has some activities and some really great recaps of the things we're going to talk about today. Just reach out to your family advocate and they would be happy to get that to you. So if you have already taken maybe the introduction section or really any section of Make Parenting a Pleasure via a video, you can go ahead and skip through this beginning section or just bear with me and I'll be done with it in just a second. But we do always like to go over our core themes and basic assumptions. The first of which, parents who come to parenting classes are special. This is my favorite one. I absolutely believe that it takes a very special parent to come to a parenting class, to take the time and really think, how do I want to parent? I know I love my children, but what are the strategies that I want to use to be the best parent I can be? A lot of people aren't willing to take that time to learn, and it's really great that you're here. Another one is parents are the foundation of the family, and parenting is the most important and challenging job that there is, which I'm not telling you anything that you don't know. All parents know that it is the most important and challenging job, raising a tiny human to be a full-grown adult and full functioning adult as well. Parents care deeply about their children. Parents are the experts about their children, and parents have to take care of themselves in order to take care of their children. All of those, of course, very true. We're really going to touch a lot on that last one today, how important it is to take care of yourself in order to take care of your family. There's no one right to be, oh my goodness, excuse me. There is no one right way to be a parent or a child. Parenting is a learned process. We teach our children through words and by example. Every parent and every child is unique. It is important to build on your strengths, and parents need a support network. If you're interested in any of those in particular, please let your family advocate know which ones, because all of them really touch on at least a portion of our curriculum. So if you're really interested in maybe building a support network or really something child development related, anything like that, you can let us know and we would be happy to either send you the link to one of the videos that I have recorded, or we could do a class in home. And of course, you could always wait until we offer it in person as well, if that's what you prefer. So reach out if that's something you're interested in. These are our group norms. These would be a little bit more relevant if you were doing the class in person, but still important to go over, especially if you do decide to reach out because you have a question about any of the curriculum. We keep everything that is said in here is confidential. So if you decide to reach out to your family advocate and ask them a question, it's always confidential. We are mandated reporters. So if you say something to me that I do have to report, that is something that I have to do by law, same with all of your family advocates. But if it's not something that needs to be reported, of course it's confidential. That is completely voluntary. We will be supportive of you. Please be supportive of us as well as anybody you ever take any of these classes with, and be non-judgmental and maintain respect. So now we're going to jump right in. We're going to talk a little bit about the perfect family. So this is something that a lot of people have an image in their mind, right? Of what is the perfect family? What do they look like? Do they have 2 children, a boy and a girl, or do they have 7 kids? Are the kids adopted? Are they not? What does the perfect family look like for you? And the point of this activity really is we see this family, they seem very happy. Another great happy family, maybe on vacation, doing a little beach day. And then this family kind of seems to be fighting, but they still have the 2 kids. They're dressed nicely. They look like they're in a home. Really the point of this activity is that there is no one perfect family. Everyone has a different image of what that looks like. I think especially in this day and age, and I'm sure most people would agree, that there's a lot more comparison nowadays with social media. There's a lot more of putting on a persona or showing out, I guess, a certain way so as to impress your peers. And in reality, there is no one perfect way to do that. There is no perfect family. There is no perfect way to dress your child or perfect activity to put them in. That just doesn't exist. And we always start off by talking about that because we want to take that pressure off. We want to set that as a ground rule. This is not something, it's not real. It's just something that we perceive as a society. So keep that in mind. Here would be a video. I don't know if any of you have ever watched her. I can't think of her YouTube name right now, but she's very popular all over Facebook. And we really pulled these videos just to kind of drive home that same point of the perfect family doesn't exist. One of the videos even goes to talk about, my kids, they were in their pajamas all day and they ate cereal, but they're alive. And some days that is the best as parents we can do, right? So cut yourself some slack. And I'll keep saying this over and over again, but if you're interested in anything that I'm not able to show you, since this is a recording, you are welcome to reach out and we would love to share those videos with you. They're really funny and I think they're really good about setting the tone of laughing at yourself as a parent and just realizing that your best is good enough. So reach out if you want the links to those. We'd be happy to send those along. So now we're going to go to, this is normally an activity I would do in the class where I would have 2 cups of water. Now, of course, we're going to have to visualize this because I can't physically hand you 2 cups of water right now. But the idea of the activity is there's 2 cups. One's full of water and one's not. The one full of water is you when you wake up in the morning. We talk about filling your glass. That kind of means it's a way to say take care of yourself. So in this activity, we have the 2 cups, and every time something kind of difficult happens, you pour out a little bit of water. So if it's a little inconvenience, like maybe your child this morning wouldn't put on their shoes so you could leave for school, and that was a stressful thing for you because they know how to put their shoes on. They do it other mornings. Why today is this not happening? That might have been a big stress to you or a little stress. You could have also woken up and maybe one of your children had a fever. That might be a bigger stress for you. So you would dump more of that water out. And the idea of this is let's see how much do you pour out during the day. And then we, of course, go on to, we poured out all this water. What do we do to pour water back into ourselves? And when we're done kind of weighing that, how much was taken out, how much was put back in, what do our cups look like? Are we filling ourselves up enough? Are we pouring out too much? Is that why we feel so run down and so stressed all the time? And it probably is. We really need to find ways to fill your glass, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more. I do want to give you an opportunity. This is something that I want you to think about. And if you want to physically do it, I know that really helps people. I'm that way. I'm that kind of learner. Feel free to go ahead and pause this video and do the activity. Take 2 glasses, fill one up with water, and think about what stressed you out. Pour it out a little bit. What was difficult for you today? And then what did you do to take care of yourself? And pour some back in. Hopefully that makes sense. Go ahead and pause the video now, and we'll jump back in once you finish the activity. So if you've done the filling the glass activity and you kind of see where you're at, I hope that that helps you with where to go now. What are you going to do with the information that we're going to talk about during this? Be mindful that filling yourself up does not make you selfish at all. It is the way that you fill yourself up that you can pour out to give to your family and to support your children. So please don't hear me saying you're going to be selfish. This is an added bonus. I think that's what a lot of people think, and that is absolutely not true. Taking care of yourself is essential. It's even proven that if we are consistently stressed out as humans, we're more likely to get sick. We're more likely to suffer from, bad moods. We might have a shorter temper with our children. I mean, the effects go on and on and on. They don't just impact you. So putting yourself to the side is really not an option when you want to provide the best possible care for your families. So let's continue on now. And let's talk about refilling our glass. So hopefully while you were doing that activity, you thought through what are some positive actions that you do to refill your glass. And that's really important for you to really think about what are things you do. And it doesn't have to be like, I did yoga for 3 hours. That's not what I'm asking for. I'm saying you had a cup of coffee. I know for me, the kind of creamer that I have is really important to me in my coffee in the morning. It's a make it or break it for me in my mornings. So I buy the same creamer every single week to put in my coffee. It's important to me. So what are little things like that that are important to you? On this chart here that we have in the packet that you are more than welcome to request, it's a things to do section. So obviously I can't just give you a copy of this like I would if we were doing this in person, but it has a list 10 things that you like to do. They might not be things that you do every single day. Maybe they are, but maybe it's you really like to see movies. Obviously, you're not going to the movie theater every day, at least I'm guessing that you don't. And so you go through, you write down these 10 things, and then there's some questions across that you can think about. And if you want to go ahead and just make this chart for yourself, you're just going to go 1 through 10 down and list 10 things. I'll go over each question. Just feel free to write the 10 things you like to do down the paper, and then across the paper, you can write each one of these questions, just like this chart does here. If I'm talking too quickly to be able to write down the questions, just go ahead and pause between questions. I'll just keep going. You can kind of do this at your own pace. So let's go with the movies idea. You really like to go see movies totally by yourself, okay? The first question is, do you do it alone or with other people? Decide which one you like to do. Maybe you really like to go see movies with your kids. To each their own. I would prefer to go see something different than Frozen 2 for the 30th time, but if that's what you enjoy, that's what you enjoy. I'm not judging. The next question is, does it cost $5 or more? And this one is important to me especially because there's always times that people are just tight on cash. We all go through it. But that doesn't mean that you can't take care of yourself. And I don't want us to put down 10 things that cost $5 or more because there might come a time where you don't have that $5. And you can't just not take care of yourself because that money is not there. So we have to come up with, it's okay to have some that cost money. Totally fine. That is not a selfish thing at all. But we also need to have some that are free. So an example would maybe be taking a walk, or maybe you just want to watch Netflix if you have a Netflix subscription, or it can really be any number of things that you could take the time to do. One for me is that I like to paint my nails. I enjoy doing that. And it's not necessarily free because of course I had to buy the nail polish, but once I've bought it, that's a lot of self-care. It can go a long ways. The next question is, did you do this activity before the birth of your first baby? And that one is important because we don't want to just be mom or just be dad. You are still you. I'm still Haley. I'm not just mom. So I need to do things that I enjoyed before as well. Another one is, have you done it since birth and how often? The next question is it enough? Do you feel rejuvenated when you're done with it? Maybe there's some smaller things that it kind of makes you feel better, but you don't feel like your glass is totally full after you're done with it. And, for me, I'm a very visual person, like I said earlier. Is it enough? I'm going to answer like, I feel like my glass is maybe a quarter full after I finish that activity. So that way I can come up with some ideas. What are some other things I can do to fill that glass up completely for me? And how often would be enough? So if it's something that really does just fill up your glass, maybe 1/4, maybe you have to do it 4 times. I don't know. Just take the time to really think about what are some things that you like to do, and how do they make you feel? How much do they cost? That way, when it comes time, I know when you feel stressed, sometimes you can't think of, well, what do I want to do? Just like when you're really hungry, sometimes you can't pick a restaurant, right? How simple would it be if I just wrote down a list of restaurants that I liked and just went, oh, this one? It's the same way when we're stressed, right? We can't think of, well, what would calm me down right now? Generally, if something's stressing me out, like my child won't put on their shoes in the morning and we're running late to go to school, I would say the thing that would refill my glass if my kids would just put their shoes on and go like we normally do. But that's not my choice. That's not something that I get to control. Of course, I can put their shoes on for them, but I don't get to control if they put their shoes on and that they're ready to go when it's time. Um, so these are things that you can control. So maybe if you have a few minutes later on in the day, instead of saying, the only thing that would cheer me up if my kids just would have put their shoes on this morning, maybe you can try and let that go by doing one of these things that you can control that help refill your glass. So now we're going to talk about stress just a little bit. As parents, I'm sure you are not a stranger to stress, whether your kids stress you out all day, every single day, or maybe they only stress you out every once in a while. Being a parent is stressful from one degree to the next. It is. And that's okay. It's okay to say that it's stressful to raise this tiny human to be a fully functional adult. That is a very stressful sounding job. If someone said to us, you're going to do this as your full-time career and you have to love them unconditionally and this is just going to be your job for the next 18 years. Of course, some of us would be super excited about that. And if you are, I would suggest maybe becoming a foster parent because that's exactly what that is. But some of us would be like, holy cow, I would never take that job. We would only do it for our kids, right? But it's still a stressful situation, and that is okay. This quote says we need 4 hugs a day for survival, we need 8 hugs a day for maintenance, and we need 12 hugs a day for growth. And that's really talking about taking care of yourself. This is another very funny video that, of course, if you want the links sent to you, please let me know. It's all about this mom who is super stressed out. She's hiding in her pantry, you can see, and she also stresses the importance of wearing a tiara if you're a mom, because you are a queen no matter what. So let's go over the different slices of life, if you will. There is money, work, children, maybe your partner, or friendships. And we could add so many things that make up one person's life, right? And all of those things can add stress. Even good things in our life can cause stress because stress is defined as our body's reaction to change. So even good things can cause stress, like going on vacation. Of course, vacation sounds like a great thing. We plan and we're excited and we do things that we would enjoy as a family, or we go visit somebody that we miss, but it's still stressful. It's stressful, driving or flying. It can be stressful packing for your younger children. There's a lot of things that go into even the good things in our life that can cause stress. There's different sources like these slices of life. Of course, there's definitely more than that. Take a second and just kind of think of, out of these slices of life, what are some things that can cause stress? I know one for me is I love my friends. They're very supportive and they're great, but still it can be stressful to try and keep up with your friends. If you've had a hard week, it can be hard to reach out and keep up and feel like you're being a good friend when you have little people to take care of, a job to go to, maybe a significant other. That's a lot of people to try and keep happy. So they can cause stress, even though it's a great thing. Let's talk about some symptoms of stress. Everyone has a way to know that they're stressed. Of course, it's a feeling that we have in our bodies, but what do you feel when you feel these symptoms of stress? I want you to take a second to just kind of think about that. And again, if you need some time, feel free to pause the video. A lot of our classes are extremely interactive. So it's normally not someone just talking at you. Normally it's a little bit more of a discussion. So when you see questions that come up, I really do want you to pause it and think about, kind of discuss it with yourself, if you will. Come up with how you know you are stressed. One thing for me, I know that I'm stressed when I kind of get shorter with other people. Someone asks me a question or that normally probably wouldn't upset me. If I'm stressed, I can be a little bit snippy in my response to people. That's a really easy way for me to know that I'm stressed. Like I said, positive events can also be stressful. You can see there's holidays, vacations. That little guy down there is graduating from school. You know, it's a huge accomplishment and something that's so exciting when anyone finishes a milestone like that, but you can't say it's not stressful to get there. It's also stressful to just have the day to go through the ceremony and get your diploma, right? But it's a great thing. It just is a change, so your body reacts stressed. So let's talk about, before we get into the power of self-talk, we're going to talk a little bit about the stress busters. So these are some strategies that might be able to help you with your stress when you start to feel whatever that is that you feel when you're stressed, to hopefully bring that down just a little bit. So one is taking 3 deep breaths and counting to 10. This is the adult version way to say belly breaths. If you have a child in a CPCD classroom for any amount of time, I'm sure you've either seen it in the classroom or your child has told you to take a belly breath when you get stressed out. I know that happens to me. My students will come up and say, Miss Haley, you need to take a belly breath. And they're right, generally, when they tell me that. And for our kids, what we do is we have them put both of their hands on their stomach and they blow out to make their stomach small. And then we tell them to, move their hands, fill your tummy up with air. And that's our way of getting them to take deep breaths. And they're supposed to take 3 of them. So the adult way is taking 3 deep breaths and counting to 10, but you can do either one. Another one is stepping back, just moving away from the situation. Normally my stepping back does involve the 3 deep breaths and counting to 10 as well. That's just how I do it. And remembering that you do have a choice in the way that you respond to stressful situations. Sometimes it doesn't feel like we have a choice because our initial reaction can be anger, it can be sadness, it can be whatever you feel when you feel stressed. But if you take a step back and just remember, you know what, this situation does not have the power to control my emotions. Yes, it is stressful, but I get to choose if I'm going to let that affect me. So taking that step back and just kind of giving yourself that moment, that way you're responding to situations the way you want to respond, not the way that your body is just telling you to. Another one is adding a little humor. I know this can be tough sometimes, especially at first, but we don't need to take life nearly as seriously as we do. Of course, I'm going to keep going back to my kids won't put their shoes on in the morning on the way to go to school, but sometimes for me, adding a little humor looks like, you know what, is it really going to be the end of the world if I'm that mom that's pulling up at the last second and telling my kids to run into the school because we're late? I don't know. Maybe I can just kind of laugh at myself that this is just where I'm at today and this is the best I could do. And of course, I'm that mom today. It doesn't have to be, oh, I'm that mom and feeling bad about yourself. It can just be laughing at yourself. We're all that mom from time to time, or dad. Another one is getting moving. This is proven to help with stress, even bad moods. Getting moving releases things into your brain that just makes you happier. It helps you accomplish something, and it can take your mind off of the thing that's really stressing you out. One of the examples on here that I really like is if everyone's in a really grumpy mood and your kids are bickering and you're stressed and just everyone is down in the dumps that day, it says on here, this mom, she threw up her hands, she laughed, and she said, "Okay, everybody, let's take 2 laps around the house." And they ran laps around the house, laps around the kitchen table. She had them do jumping jacks. And by the end, everyone's out of breath and they're laughing. You know, kids think it's hilarious that all of a sudden you're playing this game and you're running around and mom or dad's acting silly. Everyone's laughing, and hopefully the stress just goes right out of the room. Another one is taking a parent timeout. This is so important, and it's a funny thing that we call it taking a parent timeout, but it is needed, and it is okay to take one as long as your kids are safe. You're not going to just, leave them riding their bikes around the block and you're like, you know what, I'm going home. I need a parent timeout. You two are on your own. Don't do that. Keep your children safe. But as soon as you can, taking a moment, it's not selfish to need 5 minutes to take a breath or, I don't know, scroll through Facebook, something to just take your mind off of what is happening right now. Take a breath, take a parent timeout if that's what you need. Now let's talk a little bit about stress strategies. Very similar to the stress busters. I won't go over all of them because there's a lot. They are all in the packet. So again, if you want this information, it is very accessible to you. Just go ahead and tell your family advocate and they will send it right along. One is rearranging or restructuring some routines in your life. You know, if there's something stressful going on, like, I will say it again, like your kids won't get their shoes on in the morning. If that's continuously a problem, wouldn't it be a good idea for me to maybe wake my kids up 10 minutes earlier so I'm not stressing and running them out the door? Maybe rearranging our morning just a little bit to get rid of that problem. That stress doesn't need to be there. Another one is, let's talk about predicting. Yeah, that's a good one. Predicting possible stress in the making and then working around it. One that we talk about in the classroom a lot is a lot of kids really struggle with transition. In the classroom, there is a time where we go to centers and they can play in housekeeping, they can play in the science area, you can do all sorts of things. But there's also times that we eat snack from this time to this time and we brush our teeth. And some classrooms, if you're in a full day program, some of them take naps. There's a time to do certain things and there's a structure. Of course, there always is, in school or in work. And one of the things kids can really struggle with is the transition between things. Like sometimes they don't eat their snack fast enough. And of course, we let our kids eat and they fill up. But if they're, talking or they're refusing to come over and sit down at the table and they miss snack time, that can be hard for them, or they don't want to stop playing. They don't want to brush their teeth. That transition is hard for them to be able to move and then refocus because it's not necessarily something that they had to do a lot before they come to school for the first time. So we know that as an agency, and we predict that stressor. So a lot of kids have trouble with transition. And if you've spent any time in our classroom, you've probably noticed we have a song for just about everything, and we do everything at the same time every day. And that's because we predicted those stressors and we've decided this is the way we're going to combat that. And it helps a lot that we know that, and we've come up with a strategy to predict that stressor and come up with a solution before we have an issue. So think about some things that maybe are stressful in your life, and you know that's going to happen. Predict it, come up with a solution, and if it fails, worst case scenario, it's just another time that it's stressful. Just keep trying new things until you figure it out. Again, these are all in your packet, so I would love it if you asked for it because I'm just a big advocate that these are important. There is a stress buster worksheet in here as well that talks about those 5 strategies that I went over just a few minutes ago, talking about when you used them, did you like it, and all of these activities, they're all throughout Make Parenting a Pleasure. And the point of them is to just take a second and say, this worked really well for me. This worked really well. I did this one a lot. I found myself keep going back to this one strategy. So maybe this is the one that works best for me right now. because it's really important to track those things and make an informed decision about the way you want to handle stress. The last activity that we have over stress in our packet, it's called the red light, green light practice, so what you do is you visualize you have one of those construction helmets on and you've got a big light on the front and it goes from red to green. And so you think about the activities that would turn your light red and the activities that would turn your light green. It's really similar to the fill the glass idea, but maybe that visualization really wasn't working for you. So you can go ahead and use this one. Imagine your hat's on and just think about, is my light red or is my light green right now? And what do I need to do to get my light to be green? That's one that I really like. I use the glass one a little bit more, but I know that some people just learn differently and they visualize differently. So that's a good one if that applies to you. So now we're going to move on to the power of self-talk. And there's two kinds of self-talk. There is negative and positive. And those are choices that we make to have negative or positive self-talk. We just have to practice being able to choose between the two. So self-talk is that voice in your head of the way that you perceive things. So let's go to our example because it's a little hard to explain without the example right here. So one is my child is a brat. The other one is my child is a normal 3-year-old, which that always makes me laugh because it is implying that all 3-year-olds are brats, but that's besides the point. So my child is a brat. My child is a normal 3-year-old. You can probably guess which one's negative and which one's positive. And what you're saying in that is that, 3-year-olds, like we talked about in the child development section, if you've already watched that video or attended that class, children are self-centered. They are not selfish, they're self-centered, which are very different things. Selfish has this negative intent to it. There is a choice there. I am choosing to be selfish because I care about me only. I don't care about you. Where self-centered is when they don't know really that there's another option. Their whole job as a child is to think about a baby. They cry when they need their diaper changed. They cry when they need to be burped or when they need to be fed or when they're tired. They think about their needs and they make them known. They don't cry when you're hungry. They don't ask you if you want a snack. That hasn't come yet. They're just not quite there. So I like this example because it's easy to say that your child is a brat, but that's not true. They're just developmentally, they're acting like a normal 3-year-old. They're still learning about the world and how they're supposed to interact with things. So that's the power of self-talk, of negative versus positive. Those are really the same two thoughts if you get down into it. And it's our choice on whether or not we want to be negative or positive. It's something you'll probably have to practice, but it is something that you can take control of. Here's our stress busters. And now we're going to practice our inhaling and counting to 10. So everybody inhale with me. Exhale. Inhale. And exhale. Even just with those 2 breaths, I already feel more calm. This is the red light, green light that I was talking about. It's traffic light, not a construction hat, but you can picture it whichever way you'd like to. So this is something that we like to talk about because of how important it is for you to take care of yourself, to take care of the others around you. Obviously, if you're taking this class, you're a caretaker, and you need to bring your best foot forward in that because, like we said in one of those very first slides, parenting is the most important job. It's also the hardest job. So taking care of yourself is absolutely essential to being able to take care of your family in the way that you want to, not just the way that you have to because you're so stressed and you're so burdened down. One activity that we can't do, because again, we're on a video, is our rice sock activity. I don't know if any of you have ever made a rice sock, but basically it's you put rice in a sock and you just tighten it up. When we do it, sometimes we decorate them, sometimes we have some essential oils to put on there, but when you have that, you can put it in the microwave and use it as, you know, a heating pad. Maybe if your back hurts, you can put it on you. I use it sometimes when my feet are cold. I just lay it over my feet underneath a blanket. And that is just a way to take care of yourself. It's a small thing. You heat it up in the microwave for a minute, I think. And if that's something that you're interested in, we do always have those supplies on hand. Your family advocate would love to come to class or come to class. They can also come to your home and make one with you. They'll bring you the supplies and they'll just sit and chat with you. Maybe you need an adult conversation. I know that we all do every once in a while. We just need to talk and take a second to do something for ourselves. So feel free to reach out if that's something that you're interested in. Also reach out to them if you have any questions about anything we talked about today. They are all fully trained in this curriculum as well, so they would be happy to answer any of your questions. I hope you have a great rest of your day.